Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show, whether you're watching on Rumble, on YouTube, or listening via one of the many podcasting platforms. Now, it's been quite some time since we had a show, but the reason for that will become apparent. In this show, I'll discuss a few current and global issues that are top of mind, and then discuss how the principles of the self-awareness and passion quest can help you elegantly handle the issues that face us on this planet. Remember my definition of passion. It's a source of unlimited energy from your soul, your spirit, your heart that enables you to achieve extraordinary results. Extraordinary. When you're passionate, you are extraordinary, way above ordinary. And one thing that is way above ordinary is coffee and my love of coffee. Oh, that is so good. The show notes give you links to my background and the foundational principles of the show, and also links to our websites kovess.com and charleskovess.com, where you will find lots of resources and also details about the executive coaching program called the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't done so yet. It won't cost you anything except the risk of greater passion, greater self-awareness, and a greater enjoyment of your life. So let's go with today's big issues. Well, of course, because I haven't done a weekly show for a few weeks because I've been traveling, I'm going to tell you about my travels. And as I'm recording this, it's March the 15th. And it's a very special day for people of Hungarian heritage and people in Hungary, because March 15 in 1848 was the day on which there was a Hungarian revolution against the Austrian nobility. And 1848, March 15, is a big, big celebration. So every March 15 since 1848 has been celebrated as a freedom day by the Hungarian people. It's also 2 days before March the 17th, and March 17 is St. Patrick's Day. Very apposite, I think, when I'm telling you about my trip to Ireland, my mission, if you like, to Ireland and then to Hungary. St. Patrick, I remember so well because in the early 1960s, when I was going to my Catholic school here in Melbourne, we used to have a march up the main street of Melbourne on St. Patrick's Day, which was influenced by the Irish Archbishop of Melbourne, Daniel Mannix, who was actually the Archbishop of Melbourne from 1917 through to 1963 when he died at the age of 100. Pretty amazing man, but St. Patrick's Day was a big deal in Melbourne. It still is, so for all of you celebrating St. Pat's Day with green Guinness, celebrate well. So from my previous show, episode 223, you'll know that I went to Ireland to speak at the Hemp Horizons Conference in Dublin. That conference was very successful. There were 90 people at the conference, and I described it as a mission of saving the Irish people from a penalty of between 8 billion euros and it's been reported to be potentially 27 billion euros. Now, this is for a nation of 5.5 million people, and this penalty, which would be imposed by the European Union, would be because Ireland has not achieved its reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. This is a huge, huge penalty, and it's difficult to achieve the alleged targeted emissions. Now, regular viewers and listeners would know that I don't buy into the climate emergency. I've been involved in renewable energy since 1992, so I speak with some authority. There is no climate emergency. We are being exposed to a climate fraud, and as Senator Malcolm Roberts describes it in a presentation that I moderated earlier this week, and one of the people in the presentation said, no, we should call the people who say there's a climate emergency, we should call them climate terrorists, and their weapons are lies about what's happening with the climate and the lies that carbon dioxide and methane are causing dramatic changes in climate. That is my view. However, it is also my view that we have an environmental emergency, we have a pollution emergency, we have a plastic in the environment emergency, we have chemicals in the soil emergency, and save for the ridiculous penalties and the ridiculous dismantling in Australia and other places of cheap, abundant energy, there will be environmental benefits from the pressure to change what we are doing. However, making energy unaffordable and unavailable is a bad, stupid idea that is driven by an undeclared agenda. I've talked about that previously. I don't want to cover that at the moment. But from an Irish perspective, the Ireland is part of the EU. It's committed to reducing its emissions. And what I showed in the conference was that hemp is the solution to Ireland reducing its emissions and saving itself a massive penalty. Now, some people say the Irish would never pay such a penalty. Well, what the EU does is if you don't pay the penalty, they strangle the subsidies and the payments that Ireland would otherwise normally get. So how is hemp the solution? Well, I'll give you 5 very practical ways that I shared at the conference of how hemp will reduce Ireland's emissions. And what I call upon is the Irish government to invest in quickly developing the industrial hemp industry in Ireland. Irish farmers are terrific. They know how to grow hemp, and what is needed, as it is in Australia, as it is needed in America and Asia, is capital to now let this industrial hemp opportunity expand exponentially. And trust me, it will. I'm committed to doing so. And what we have to do is show the reasons why investing in hemp makes great sense. Well, investors will come when they see the end markets. And from an Irish perspective, there are 5 brilliant, practical, doable end markets that will have a wonderful impact on emissions in Ireland. Number 1 is uniforms for first responders, firemen, ambulance, police, and indeed the military. Those uniforms should be made out of hemp textiles. And the strategy here is that if the Irish government says we want hemp clothing for our first responders and our military, that then gives markets to Irish farmers to give them the confidence to grow large amounts of hemp. And hemp sequesters, at best information we have, 22 tonnes of CO2 per hectare per crop, 22 tonnes of carbon dioxide. And the sequestration process is well shown. It also improves the soil. It also rejuvenates soil. So 5 strategies that drive market demand, that will drive investment. And the Irish government, if it invested €100 million, just 100 million, 1/80th of the penalty is looking at, or even 1/270th of the potential penalty is looking at, it's a tiny investment for the good of the Irish people to avoid an outrageous penalty. The second strategy is noise barriers on freeways. They can be made out of hempcrete, not concrete. Concrete is a very significant greenhouse gas emission product. Hempcrete is not. The third particular strategy, the third product, the third hemp solution is construction materials. And these construction materials can be made out of hempcrete or out of hemp fiber compressed in composite materials. And the construction industry emits significant greenhouse gases. The fourth strategy is insulation of buildings. Insulation is primarily made out of fiberglass bats. Hemp fiber bats reduce greenhouse gas emissions significantly. The fifth solution is weed matting. So much weed matting around the world is done with black plastic to suppress weeds. Hemp fiber weed matting is a wonderful solution. It takes plastic out of the environment. Making plastic is a greenhouse gas emission. The hemp weed matting made from hemp fiber is biodegradable, compostable. You put it on the ground, it suppresses weeds beautifully, and then it goes straight into the soil and rejuvenates soil. These are 5 very practical markets that will, when supported by the government, give wonderful confidence to Irish farmers to get into this, reduce Ireland's greenhouse gas emissions, and reduce these ridiculous EU penalties. And again, I come back and say there is no climate emergency. We are being sold a pup by climate fraudsters and climate terrorists, but we need to clean up our environment. Why? For our health. Now, talking about health, I had the pleasure of meeting with Jessica Richards. I'd met Jessica Richards over a cup of coffee. Again, another sip of coffee. Julie, this is so good. And I've met Jessica in a number of Zoom meetings for medical doctors for ethics, for the C-type ethics. I won't mention the word because who knows what censorship continues to happen. And I only knew Jessica from online, but she happened to be, she's in the UK, she happened to be in Dublin the same day I was there, so we caught up for coffee. And she gave me a copy of her book, great title, The Topic of Cancer. And her journey is an extraordinary journey of deeply understanding health, of ways to handle cancer. She had a couple of bouts of cancer, and she's a wonderful, wise, highly informed person who understands the human body beautifully. So I urge you to understand the need to look after your health. This book, The Topic of Cancer, get hold of it. It comes with wonderful testimonials. So that was great to catch up with Jessica. And then I also caught up in Dublin with Dr Gerry Waters. And Gerry Waters is the only doctor in Ireland to have been suspended by the Irish Medical Council with outrageous behaviour, suspended for 4 years, and they've just dropped the case against him. Oh, we're not proceeding with that. Having stopped him from practicing for 4 years, stopped his income source on trumped up nonsense, and the behaviour of these medical boards in both Ireland and in Australia and many places around the world is wrong, is tortious, is in some cases criminal, is grossly negligent, and I call upon doctors to unite against the outrageous pressures put on them by these medical boards in the name of public safety. It is total BS. So Gerry's fought the good fight and will continue to fight that good fight. They've dropped the case against him. He can go back and practice medicine. He's got a bigger fight on his hands. Now, again on the question of health, again on the question of people saying, oh, this is good for you. Well, because I was traveling, I bought a new book, wonderful book. There's my second book that I'm recommending to you, The Body by Bill Bryson. And I'm a fan of Bill Bryson. I've read a number of his books, wonderful writer. This book of incredible references and resources, and Bill Bryson is a wonderful researcher, 440 pages full of we don't know why the body behaves that way. You would be stunned at how many bits of information we don't know about. And yet doctors will come to you and say, this is the answer. That's the answer. No, your body is incredibly complicated. If you want to get a sense of how complicated, get this book, The Body, and stop being defrauded by health professionals and medical advisors who say, I know precisely what's happening in your body. No, they don't. I've had experts tell me that, in fact, the medical profession understands less than 1% of what's happening inside each of what Bill Bryson says is some 40 trillion cells in your body. Within each cell, the complexity of it is amazing. Your body is amazing. And I urge you in this show to keep looking after it and understanding it and being aware of it and your self-awareness about what works for you. So then, having left Ireland, I went to Hungary for 3 days to rejuvenate the Hungarian industrial hemp industry, to continue the work that I had started back in the early 2010s. I was at a hemp conference in Budapest in 2016. Budapest is a beautiful city. Go and visit it. And that was a successful visit, and I'm confident that Hungary will become a major industrial hemp centre for Europe. I'm committed to making that happen. It was wonderful to be there practicing my Hungarian, and after 3 days of immersed in that environment, I was amused to see myself switching from English to Hungarian almost subconsciously. So the question of truth whilst travelling in Ireland, in Hungary, and comparing it to Australia, so what is the truth about Donald Trump? What is the truth about Elon Musk? What is the truth about the leaders of the EU? What is the truth about Ukraine? What is the truth about Russia? And the different perspectives from whilst all that travelling was happening, I had the TV on watching the different news reports, remarkably different news reports depending on which channel you go to. And the simple answer is there's not one source of truth. So I urge you to be hungry, to keep an open mind, to keep looking for information about, I've just been talking about health, about politics. People say, oh no, Trump is a disaster because of the way that he does stuff, or Elon Musk has got a hidden agenda, or who's actually running the planet. And the globalist agenda that I'm strongly opposed to, in the antics of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, I'm strongly opposed to them. And I have friends who think it's a wonderful idea to have a one world government. What's the truth? Spend the time, and you will have the time when you realize how precious your time is. And if you look after your health so that you have the energy to invest in exploring these issues, and then that will help you make better decisions about what your life is about and the steps that you want to take so that you can cope with whatever life throws at you. That's what self-awareness is about. That's what passion is about, so that you can live life on your terms. If you have no awareness about what your terms are, then how do you know whether or not you're living it on your terms? What's important to you? What are your values? How important is health to you? And the information that I have in Australia is that hospitals in Australia are losing money left, right and centre. I don't consider it safe to go to hospital except if you have an emergency, a car accident. The medical system's fantastic if you have a car accident or you're caught in a fire. The charity that I'm involved in, Kids Foundation, does wonderful work for kids injured in fires. But golly gosh, going to relying on the health system to keep you healthy is a bad decision. So that's it. I hope today's show makes a beneficial difference to your life, to your thinking, and to your ability to understand yourself ever more deeply and to understand your passion and to pursue your passion. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay passionate. We'll be with you next week. Bye for now.